Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. How are you doing? It's a beautiful spring day in Northern California, and you are in the right place, teaching kids the language of money. Today is April the 11th, and it's National Living Donor Day. It's also National Submarine Day and National Pet Day. I do not have a pet, but I'm doing some pet sitting, and I really appreciate people who have pets because it's been very interesting. And guess what else, you guys? It is National Financial Literacy Month. It's a key component to financial health, wellness, and personal finance is the number one topic of arguments within families. And although only a handful of states require financial education, we're bringing that up. And poor financial literacy leads to what? Poor decision making, which leads to poor behavior, which means that you can't live your best life. You are here at Patelco Credit Union, and our promise is to build your financial health and well-being. So when we manage effectively and teach our children to manage effectively, guess what? They grow up to be independent, strong, and financially independent young people, and they can be resilient. So when they have those financial hiccups, we know we're going to have 3 to 5 financial hiccups a year. They're going to cost them between $300 and $500. They're going to be ready, and then they can seize their opportunities. And seizing opportunities is getting exactly what makes you happy. Using your dollars to increase the beauty and the vibrancy and the greatness of your community and your children's community. And then rising up. You guys know I always talk about rising up. And rising up means that I am personally now making decisions for my best future self. So you guys, please feel free to use the chats for comments. We always have a very robust chat community here, using the Q&A for questions. And we are going to try to answer all of them, but if we can't, you can send me an email at webinars@patelco.org, and I will be right on the money. And we have some great ones coming up. Smart and safe, protecting yourself against fraud. The fraud is just so insidious, and there's so many ways that you can lose money. But here at Patelco, we're going to do our very best to give you the best information so that you don't have to worry about losing your money through fraud. And our other one is the amazing Andrew. He's going to be doing the psychology of spending. He's going to talk about the triggers that affect your figures. And now, you guys, we're going to talk about the language of money. I always say where energy goes, energy flows. And I also tell the young people that limit of language is limit of mind. If you can't talk money, you ain't gonna have a dime. Oh my God, she's rapping. Please, teacher, stop rapping. But now I would like to have the absolute amazing delight to share, to introduce my good friend, Nicolle Hood. She is the co-founder and CEO of My First Nest Egg, a digital financial literacy system that gamifies healthy habits for kids. She's a graduate of USC and Notre Dame Law, and she brings the company over 17 years of experience. And she is lovely. And she is my friend. And you guys are going to have a wonderful time learning the language of money. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to welcome you here. Come on down, Nicolle, yay!
Hi, Veronica. Thanks so much for having me. I feel really blessed to be here on this call with you all tonight and talking about favorite things, teaching kids the language of money. And it could not be more perfect time because it is April with his Credit Union Youth Month and Youth Financial Literacy Month. And so it's a perfect time. And I can't wait to just dive in and start talking with you all about it. So without further ado, let's start here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I'm here tonight, actually. So, for about 18 years, I was a practicing corporate attorney. And during the day, I'd be working with a 45-year-old developer and helping them with their complex mezzanine financing and mitigating their tax exposure. And at night, I'd go and do my pro bono hours, and I'd be helping a 45-year-old with crippling $600 debt. And it was in those moments that it became really clear to me people who spoke the language of money could use it to their advantage, and people who did not speak the language of money taken advantage of. And it always kind of sat a little poorly with me, but it wasn't until COVID hit and my kids came home from school that I realized I was raising kids who did not speak the language of money. And I knew that because I was hearing a lot of I wants without understanding where money came from, hearing things on the news and really not having a great grasp of what they meant. And so my business partner and I said, how do we teach young kids about money? And is it important to teach young kids about money? And there were so many staggering things when we jumped into the research. And what we're going to talk about today is how to teach kids the language of money. Money is a language, and you need to start early. So, BYU research tells us kids who learn about money management from their parents develop stronger financial habits. Okay, we kind of know this stuff. Early financial education results in lower debt, higher savings, and better credit scores. And 98% of Americans wish they had learned about money in school. This is all to say, people really do want to learn about money, and we know that it's important to start talking to them about it when they're young. But how young? And when do we start talking to them? For the most part, a lot of people start talking to kids about money when they're in high school. And I hate to tell you, but that is too late. So if we're going to talk about money as a language, we're going to talk about the study and the science of learning a language. So here's some crazy stuff. The most effective time to teach children a new language is between the ages of 0 and 10. While their brains are forming these trillions of connections, and there's this process called synaptic pruning. And I love hearing this phrase because I didn't really know about it until I jumped into it. And this is where if you learn something as a kid and you hear it once or twice, it probably is going to be snipped from your memory. It's not something that that brain is going to use unless it is reinforced, strengthened through repetition. It's just going to be discarded. And that's why kids who are taught a second language early usually can build fluency. So I'd love to ask everybody, if you can, pop in the chat if you speak a second language. All right, so just start popping it in. Do you speak a second language? All right, now my next question is going to be for those who don't speak a second language, have you tried to learn a second language later on in life? Was it easy or hard? All right, just you can give me a easy or hard if you are trying to learn a second language later on in life. Okay, so while we can learn throughout our entire lifetime, this learning process is most active in early childhood. And so children who are exposed to a language during this critical window can achieve fluency with ease. And while those who start later struggle a little bit. And so kids who aren't exposed to financial concepts early, for them, money feels foreign and maybe even intimidating later on in life. And we know that when something's intimidating, we sometimes are then afraid to learn. We're afraid to use the language. And I could not agree more with Veronica. You have to speak the language of money to be good with money. There's simple, small words that are packed with so much meaning when it comes to money. The word interest, it's teeny tiny. And yet, if you don't understand that, You can lose out on opportunities like earning interest, and you can definitely get yourself into a lot of trouble with paid interest. So we are talking about money like it's learning a second language through exposure, repetition, and practice. Thank you, everybody who's popping little answers into the chat. I appreciate it. All right. So, what is the critical cutoff point? This is going to be crazy. When I heard this, this is what launched us on our journey of helping families teach their kids about money. Money habits are set by age 7. Who's a little surprised? Anybody? I was completely blown away by this. And kids as early as 3 can start understanding basic money concepts. They can understand if you give this and get this, and they can start understanding barter and exchange. By age 5, you have kids who have an emotional response to either being a saver or spender. And how many of you have multiple kids and you'll see one is just naturally the kid that's gonna rake in their gold and they're gonna sit on it and they don't want to touch it at all. And then there's that other kid where it flows out of their fingers like water. And so we start to see these habits built very, very early on. And the great news is that there is a way to start building healthy money habits, to start exposing them to the language of money early, even if you don't feel terrific about your own skills. And it's just about starting, and we're going to jump in and talk about how to do it. Okay, so here's the ABCs. All language starts with an alphabet and the first couple letters. So let's jump in. Allowance. How many of you give your kids an allowance or believe in allowance? I will be completely honest. Before I did the research, I was not a big believer in allowance. I thought, gosh, my kids, they live in my house. I'm giving them food. I'm giving them a place to live. I'm sending them to school. They should just do their chores. Well, allowance is not just free money. It's a teaching tool. And if you think about allowance like giving kids an immersion in a language, what you're doing is you essentially are giving your kids an opportunity to make mistakes. And I don't know if any of you have a childhood memory where you made a mistake with money, but one that jumps out to me and I will never forget it is, and I'm going to date myself right now, is when I was about 8 years old and I was looking in the back of a comic book and there was a mail away for sea monkeys. Does anybody remember sea monkeys? And I remember telling my parents, I really want to buy these sea monkeys. And they were about $3.99, but you needed the tank. And by the time I was done, it was about $15. And my parents kept saying, I don't think it's a really good investment. They're pretty much just brine shrimp. We could go down to the aquarium and get a whole scoop of them for 25 cents. And I said, no, no, no. I've looked at the pictures. These are little monkeys that play with balls under the water and they have complete families. So I was committed to the sea monkey adventure. And out of my own money, which was my birthday money at the time, I bought sea monkeys. Well, it turns out my parents were right. They hatched, and it was a big bowl of brine shrimp. And it smelled bad, and they all got stuck to the edges within a few days, and they didn't do so well. And the best thing my parents did was they did not reimburse me or give me back my money. And the next time when we were out and about, and my brother had his money to spend, and I didn't have mine, it was a moment that I remember, that that missing out on something because I spent my money foolishly. And it is such a great opportunity to give kids the opportunity to fail in small ways while they're under your protection, while they are making $15 mistakes, not $1,500 mistakes, or even worse, making a small mistake, but with a credit card, and then the interest keeps building. So I think of allowance not as free money, but as a teaching tool to allow your kids to make mistakes and also for you to start watching them and seeing what kind of kid do you have? Do you have the kid that sits on their gold, or do you have the kid where the money flows out as quickly as it comes in? Because then you can adjust the way you talk to them and you wouldn't be able to pick that up unless you saw it in action. Okay. B, budgeting made fun. Okay, so a budget is hard for all of us. But if we're trained in budget early on, it's like the sentence structure to what we do. This makes everything make sense. So when I think about a budget and talking to kids about it, the most important thing is what we need versus what we want. And it's so easy to make this a fun conversation for kids. You're in the supermarket, they're starting to pull things off the shelves. Well, what do we need and what do we want? And maybe for every five things that we need, there's maybe one want. We'd really like that bag of chips. We'd really like this. But it's a great way to start thinking about it, the needs versus wants, and making family budgeting a positive, engaging experience. It is okay to say no to your kids, but maybe also explain why. We're not going to buy this brand because this one's on sale. We're not going to buy this because we're saving up for this, which will be even better later on. One of the things that I saw recently was that Rent-A-Center was selling Nikes for 19 bucks a week for 53 weeks. Those shoes at the end of 53 weeks will be over $1,000. And I was thinking if we could teach kids that if they understood that if they saved that same amount, that 20 bucks for 10 weeks, they could have bought those shoes outright. And so it's this very important thing to be really illustrative when we say no to our kids. Like, hey, no, you don't need the shoes today because we could save up and in 10 weeks you can get those shoes rather than us paying $1,000 for those shoes later on. C, conversations about money. All right. We all come from different backgrounds, and in some households, money is really has been a taboo subject. It feels weird to talk about it. There's a little bit of embarrassment. There can be shame. There can be families who make so much that they're embarrassed to tell their kids about it, or families that are just scraping by and they're afraid to tell their kids about that too. One of the craziest stats we found were that people who did not talk to their kids about money when they were young, those kids grow up to have zero in savings later on. It's 50% of them. Half of the kids who did not talk about money at home have zero in savings today. What a way to start with no savings because you didn't hear about it growing up. So let's start integrating these into daily life. It's easy to just talk about basic things. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to get into the nitty-gritty about how much you make, but we can say, we're going to buy this brand instead of this one because it's on sale. We're not going to buy that toy because we really want you to be able to play soccer this year, and the league fees cost this much, and so we're going to save up our money for this. And make sure that those answers are honest, but also age appropriate. We don't want to scare kids, but it's okay to tell them no and maybe give them a good answer. And my favorite answers are this over that. So my no comes with a, you know what? Instead of buying this, we're going to wait and get that later on, which brings us to the biggie in financial language building, delayed gratification. How many of you have heard of the marshmallow test? This is one of the biggest psychological tests of the 1970s, and it is the number one indicator of financial success is whether you can delay gratification. So this study coming out of Stanford were a whole bunch of scientists putting a marshmallow in front of a kid and telling them, hey, that's a delicious marshmallow. But if you can wait 10 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows. But if you eat that marshmallow, you get no more. Watching the kids who were able to delay gratification and wait those 10 minutes for that second marshmallow, those kids were found to have better relationships. They were better with money. They had better jobs. And so teaching kids how to delay gratification, and one of my favorite ways to do that is FOMO. Who knows what FOMO is? Fear of missing out. Yeah, you could buy that now, but gosh, this coming up down the month later, oh, that's going to be really neat. What do you think? It's up to you. What would you rather do? You could have this right now, or we can wait for a little longer. Those shoes, waiting to not get those Nikes today and pay 20 bucks over 53 weeks, as opposed to just waiting the 10 weeks till you saved it up and bought them outright. Waiting leads to bigger rewards. Saving for goals beats impulse spending every time. And this is something that we want to hammer home. So I use a FOMO strategy. It's also fun if you start telling your kids, hey, here's your allowance. If you don't spend it, maybe I'm going to pay you a little bit of interest on it. That starts making little wheels click in their heads because that's real life. That's what's happening with your accounts. And so we really want to start training them early on about this delayed gratification. All right. You are an example to your kids. Kids copy what you do. They model our language. They model what they see. If there's packages showing up every single day from Amazon, they kind of think, well, Amazon packages arrive every day. If they see us, being really tight with the money and being afraid to spend, that's also something that they learn. So we have the power to model our behavior to make sure that our kids are going to carry on. And look, we all make a ton of mistakes. When we make mistakes with money, we can share those with our kids. Whether it is, I didn't pay this on time and now there's a penalty, or I should have waited to buy this because I knew a sale was coming up later on. It is okay to involve your kids in age appropriate financial decisions, choosing, budgeting for a trip, talking about their clothes that they're going to buy. All of these things, if you incorporate and include them in there and share a budget with them, they get super excited and they're excited to show you that they have been learning. Okay, financial vocabulary matters. Word shape understanding and introducing them to financial terms early is so critical because, as we talked about, these words hold a lot of meaning in words that are not particularly long, but they're packed with positive and negative things. I love to think about financial vocabulary as if, when you're standing in a group of people and they're talking about a TV show and you haven't watched it, but they're all talking about the characters and they're talking about the plot, and it's going in one ear, out the other, and you're not really paying attention. And then you watch that first episode. And all of a sudden, the next time you're in that conversation, it all starts to click and make sense. The same with financial vocabulary. You don't expect that your kids will understand compound interest and the stock market and everything else. But if you introduce some of these basic words to them when they're young, then they have a lifetime, this huge runway in order to learn more about it. And it's that context that they pick up over time. One of the things that we offer through My First Nest Egg is an entire library of financial education videos. And these are kids teaching other kids financial terms. And so they're about a minute to 2 minute long videos. They're silly, they're fun. And in fact, Patelco has put together a really neat package for you guys. And part of it is um, an entire library of financial education videos that are all about different saving and investment mechanisms and vehicles. So everything from a savings account to a savings deposit to CDs, all the way to the stock market and cryptocurrency, and kids teaching other kids these terms. Now, if I was to start over and if I only had the opportunity to teach my kids one financial term, that term would be interest, because that term affects, as Veronica mentioned earlier, your potential for growing your money and also your potential for losing your money with predatory lending practices out there. 24% interest paid, that doesn't sound really bad until you understand what it means. And so we really want to arm kids with some of these terms early, so when they're out of your house, when they're no longer under your control, that they start making really smart decisions early on. Okay, gamification, making it fun. And it is not at all hard to make money lessons fun. So games reinforce financial skills. It's like practicing a conversation in a new language. And for some reason, play makes learning stick. We're learning more and more and more about this. So role play, real life money scenarios, And in fact, I want to show you how easy it is just to even start talking about maybe the word inflation with your children. It is all over the news. Every kid has probably heard inflation, but maybe they don't really know what it is. Here is a fun little game that you can do, and you could do it with any decade at all. You could do it with any generation, and that's just comparing prices today with prices from a long time ago, or even maybe 10 years ago. So I'd love to jump in and just see if any of you can answer these questions. So I have a list of average prices. These are national averages. Okay, so a gallon of milk in 2024 costs $4.50. Can someone tell me what a gallon of milk cost in the 1960s? The average price for a gallon of milk in the 1960s. All right, I'm gonna pull up the chat to make sure. All right, I got 60 cents, $2, $1.50. Come on, keep going, 50 cents. I'm gonna say everybody, 10 cents. All right, the answer is 49 cents. Okay, all right, here's another one. A loaf of bread in 2024 cost $3.50. What do you think it cost in 1960? Okay, let's get some guesses. Let's go. 5 cents, 75, 30. Ooh, we're getting close. 30, 50, 10. It was 20 cents. 20 cents for a loaf of bread. All right, let's do something a little bigger. A new car in 2024, the national average is $35,000. All right, throw out some numbers. What was going on in 1960? Oh, some really good guesses already. 1,200, 70, 3,500. All right, an average car price in 1960, $2,600. That's a new car. That's a brand new car. We're not even talking about a used car. All right, and then some of the things are really, really, really staggering. Let's even talk, this one blows my mind every single time I read it. 1 year of private college in 2024, $50,000. What do you think 1 year of private college in 1960 was? 5,000? Ooh, go lower. Ooh, 1,000. That's a good guess. That's a good guess. $1,500 for a year. That's both semesters. All right, and I'm gonna leave with the last one. And this is one that I always find is really interesting for kids, is talking about average home prices. So, and this is a national average, not just a California average, but a new home or a home in 2024, the national average is about $500,000. What was it in 1960? Okay, someone said 50, someone said 5, 250. In 1960, the average price of a home was $12,700. Okay, now if that doesn't paint a picture for your kids about what inflation is and how the same amount of money can buy a different thing each couple of years. It's just a really wonderful way to teach kids about how the cost of goods and services increase while the dollar actually stays the same. So thank you all for participating, but think about how easy it is to throw some of these little money games into your daily life. Or sometimes I'll just ask the kids when they're like, oh, could we go here? Or could we do this? I'll just say, how much do you think it costs to buy a hot dog? And their guesses can be really wild. And it's kind of almost like playing the prices right in your daily lives with your kids, because sometimes when they understand the prices, it makes them really a lot more pensive about it. And then understanding, okay, how does it take to actually earn these things? And so we're going to get into now hands-on money. I feel like we've talked about this a little already, but I can't tell you the power of a mistake to teach a money lesson. And you don't need to do this just with dollar bills. You can do it with digital money, with charts, with different ways that kids can feel it. You just have to show them. One thing that happened in our family that was a really powerful lesson was for my middle son. I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy in the middle, and he loves video games. And he would ask me, can I spend my own money to buy this extra little piece for my video game and this weapons pack and this and this and this? And he's like, it's only $4.99. It's only this. Well, we kept our whole all of his chores and allowance on our digital piggy bank, and we would just every time he'd say, I'd like to buy this. All right, you want to buy it? It's your money, it's your choice. Well, about 6 months later, we were about to go on a trip, and the kids were looking at their accounts and how much they had, and my son was blown away that his sisters each had almost $100 more than him. And he said, how is this possible? I do more chores. I even pick up the dog poo. I do all of these things. How do the girls have more money than me? I said, well, buddy, let's go look at your ledger. And we went down, and he goes, I said, buddy, it's from your video game expenses. No, 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 it was only $4 and $6. And it was those micro purchases, the $6, the $5, the $4, they added up. And he had lost so much. Since that moment, that kid has not bought one more thing for his video games. And he is much more cautious. He was my spender. He was my kid where the money flowed. Oh, I have $10. I'm going to spend $9.50. And now he's much more cautious because that moment hurt. And it's okay for your kids to feel a little bit of financial pain, especially right now. Let them experience disappointment. Let them feel it. We did not give him extra money because he had made that mistake. We let him make that mistake. All right. Investing basics for kids. I would say that investing is something that scares so many people. And it's particularly scary when you're not exposed to the financial vocabulary. So the little packet that Patelco is put together for you guys from My First Nest Egg is a really fun map of the galaxy, and each planet is a different investment type. And what we're saying is we're not telling kids to invest in the stock market. We're simply exposing them to what is the stock market, what is cryptocurrency, what is a savings account, and learning risk levels. And so it's so important that we start teaching kids risk levels so they can start to process that just like all of the other financial vocabulary. So we're really excited for you guys to be able to have that fun little project after this webinar. All right, jobs. Learning the value of work. One of the things that I saw my son and my business partner and I, and one of the things that launched us on our journey was our boys were trying to buy a crossbow. And we said, well, how do you expect to pay for this? And they said, well, it's free. And we said, nothing is for free. And they said, look, it says free shipping. No. Oh my goodness. We knew we were in trouble at that moment. They were 2 boys around 7.5 years old. We said, gosh, we need to start making these kids earn things so that they understand that there is a value to everything. The work that we do has a value, and the things that we buy have a value. And so we love saying encourage age-appropriate jobs. Letting kids be little entrepreneurs is really fun. And I am sometimes blown away by what kids wind up making in terms of businesses. They are smart little people, and they have needs and wants and desires. And if you give them a chance to maybe put together a little business on the side, or talk about things that they could do in your own home, talk about things that they can do in their neighborhood. Now, one of my kids brings in and brings out the trash cans for the older neighbors and gets paid for it. Really not a big amount of money, and sometimes the older neighbors don't pay, but they're really learning this. They're learning that the value of their efforts can lead to money. So work builds responsibility, and we really do encourage having them receive some form of payment so that they can feel that level of achievement and getting something in return. And then one of the final things that we love talking about is kindness with money. Generosity is an essential part of financial fluency. Um, money itself isn't anything. It is simply a tool, and it can do things for you, it can do things for them, but it can also do good in the rest of our community. And so teaching kids how that they can use money as a tool is great. Encouraging giving with intention, it builds gratitude. So one of the things we also learned about generosity, it's a 100% learned behavior. Someone doesn't just become rich and all of a sudden become generous. Generosity is built from practicing it. So whether it's not, if even if it's not giving money, are you giving your time? If kids are learning these things, it's a really healthy way for them to start building a sense of what they can do with money. And we really do want kids to think of it as a tool. I really did want to give some time for questions. And Veronica, I'm gonna turn it over to you. But I mentioned the Galactic Money Quest, the Stellar Savings Package, and Veronica and Patelco have made My First Nest Eggs little package here available. So after the webinar, you can email her and see if it's available in branch or to be mailed out. And we really hope that you guys enjoy this as a part of teaching your own kids the language of money. So I'd love to open it up for questions. Veronica, am I doing this right?
Absolutely. Why don't we have you stop your share so I can get back to the our closing yeah. Let me Well, I absolutely loved every minute of this presentation. It was awesome. So somebody asked if we could actually, it is.
Oh, Veronica, I love some of the things that people are saying that they're doing with their kids. I see my son enjoys selling his old toys he no longer wants. I love that. Oh, this is really great. I love seeing this.
Absolutely. So, Nicole, how do you teach children about credit? It's so tricky, and so many people get in trouble with it. And I know that kids, they can't conceive of it sometimes. Any suggestions around that?
Yes. When we talk to kids about credit, we talk about it almost like being a grade that they would get in school. If they are showing the teacher the good financial habits, look, I am not spending more than I make. I don't have more debt. I am putting things away. If you are showing someone this, it's kind of like I'm telling the teacher I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. That credit score goes up. And just the opposite, if you show poor financial behaviors, that credit score goes down. So
Mm,
part of a lot of what we have in terms of our tools is to start not teaching, we don't want to tell a kid you have an 800 and you have a 300 credit score, but what we start telling them is there are behaviors, there are
mm,
certain steps that you can take to make your credit score better. And so we really just want to encourage these positive behaviors. If you make $5 a week, you shouldn't be spending $5 a week. If you're making 10 bucks a week and maybe you're putting away 60% of it or something else, you're starting to show I have good financial habits. And that's what we really want them to do in the end. I call it it's a financial report card for kids.
right on. And you talked about modeling positive behaviors for your kids. Do you have to watch your behavior? Because you know they're not listening, they're watching you all the time.
I would say our kids watch us more than they listen to us. And so, um, if we are showing a priority for things over places, or
Hmm.
things over lessons, or this over that, then you don't even need to say it out loud. That is what they know. And so I I really think it is when we talk to families about money, it's to say, put your money where your values are. Are you
Ooh,
putting your money where your values are? And so if you say, we value education, and you are buying you're spending more money at Sephora than you are at books or, maybe a lesson, do you really value education? That's the question. If you say we really value music in our home, but you're spending more of your time and effort over here rather than maybe on the kids practicing or being able to have a music lesson or something else, then do you really value it? So I love to say, are you putting your money where your values are? And your kids will see what you value by what you are putting your time, your energy, your capital behind.
Nicolle, they don't know much about you. Could you tell them about your children and their ages so that they know that you are a professional at this?
I am barely surviving two teenagers and a 9-year-old. So I have a 15-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old son, and an 8-year-old daughter. My business partner also has 4 kids of her own. And when we started my first nest egg, all of the kids were under 10 at the time. And we really wanted to make sure that I don't know about all the other parents on the line, but if you don't have a sense of humor, it is really rough. And so you will see that everything we do, even with money, has a sense of humor because you got to laugh through this process. And we've also found that kids are so much more willing to engage and be a part of it if it is fun. So this does not, money conversations don't need to be heavy conversations. They can be fun. What are we going to do when we save $50? What are we going to do? It can be the most exciting thing. You could have a jar, you can have this, there are so many fun things to start the process. And all we say is start, just start. And talk to your kid today about money. Have one little conversation with them. Oh, you saved money on that, or you bought that, or do you regret buying that? I mean, just start it anywhere. Every single thing in your home is an opportunity to talk about money.
Well, I have in the chat a young lady has a 14-year-old, and she wants to start with a bank account. And I know from experience that some of the kids don't know whether a cash card or actually having using physical cash. Do you have any recommendations for this mother for her 14-year-old son?
So here's another little piece of research that kind of blew me away. Kids with an actual savings account are more likely to go to college. They're more likely to
Wow.
have good grades. And it is, again, setting them up with those habits to start thinking about it. So whether or not you are getting them a debit card or working through your credit union to have a savings account, I would say that teaching them what digital banking looks like
Mm.
critical. And so making sure that they are starting to learn the process, but that savings account is one of the best starts is to show them where they should be putting the money that isn't going to burn a hole in their pocket and not the stuff that they're going to spend. Let them see interest. Let them start getting familiar. Let them build that confidence of opening up that account because with you. I mean, these are things that if you're doing it together, they're going to be more confident than when they go to do it on their own later on. Should you give money for chores? Is that all right, Veronica, if I answer
Yeah,
that?
go ahead, please.
So I did not always believe in giving money for chores. I absolutely do now because I do want my kids to, and not every chore gets the same amount of money, right? One fun thing to do with your kids is to sit them down, break up all the chores that have to be done, and let them bid for the chores. I'll clean the toilets, but I want $4 for cleaning all of the toilets for the whole month. And you can let your kids, will anybody underbuild them if somebody's willing to do it for $3, or if it's a really undesirable thing and everybody's like, I really don't want to do it, make your kids bid for the chores. And then I would pay them for it because once they have that cash in hand, it gives them that chance to make mistakes, but it also gives you an opportunity to see who they are in terms of a spender or a saver. And if they are a spender, it's great to start talking to them about it. If they are a saver, well, what are some things that it doesn't do you any good if it's just sitting there? Maybe we start talking about investing. Maybe we talk about being generous with our local church or community center. So we really do want to become aware of who these people are and their money choices.
Perfect. There's five words that I hate, and I'm going to tell you what they are. They're fast, easy, cheap, now, and free. It makes our brains go nuts because then we think that we're getting ahead. How do you show children that no matter what, there's a cost to every decision that they make?
Oh, well, all of those words that you just said are the antithesis, the very opposite of delayed gratification, right?
Mhm.
They weren't waiting for it. And I think that the more they see that those things really aren't the best, and maybe this, I want to make sure my answer is responsive, but sometimes when you're in line at the checkout, right? And your kids, they're bombarded with all of those things at eye level that they just want, that pack of gum, that little extra toy. I mean, they set those up to be like traps for kids. Every once in a while, say yes to them and
Mm.
allow them to be disappointed with the mistake.
Wow.
And so I love to say a lot of the times I'll do this. Sure, you want to spend your money on that pack of gum? It's $1.50. It's coming out of your account. Where it's coming out. And the second I go to take it out, they're like, no, no, I decided not to. I don't really want it. So give them that opportunity to make the choice to say no when they have to spend what they have earned.
It's so easy for them to spend your money than theirs, right?
Hmm.
My kids were perfect at that. Um, the other question that I had was, uh, can you just talk just a few more minutes about how do we explain risk levels
Yeah.
to young people? Um, because I have found that with the adults that I meet, they many of them are so afraid of investing that they actually end up losing it, especially as they get older.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and in many communities, we're so afraid of risk that we don't do anything.
Yep. Um, so there are so many ways to start, but I remember when my grandfather passed, I'm from a Hispanic family, we had to go through every book in the house, and we were shaking the book because there's $20 bills stuffed everywhere. And there is a certain amount of fear for, just financial institutions in general. And there's, if you come from a different country and there was very unstable environments. And so it's not about judging that, oh, that's a bad idea. It's about saying, well, here is what we see historically. If you put your money in a savings account, well, it's insured up to $250,000. That means no matter what, you are going to get it, but you're going to be fine. And then talking to people about the historical gains in the stock market or the historical gains with a mutual fund. And then also saying there is no history with cryptocurrency. We don't know. It is the wild, wild west. There is no regulation here. There is no anything else. Let's just be clear and upfront about it. So being clear is what have we
Mhm.
historically seen with investing with different vehicles, like that when you get a share certificate, that it is going to do exactly what it says right there. If it says that you're going to get 2% over 2 years, then you know for sure that you're going to get 2% over 2 years. Now, are you maybe not getting a potential 10% in the stock market? Well, in 2 years, the stock market could be all the way down and you could be at much less than 2%. So it really is looking at the history, looking at what is a sure thing, looking at what is
Mhm.
medium risk, high and low. And actually, as part of the little packet that we did in the little videos, each little planet has an alien guide who tells you about that investment type. So there's a 401k planet, and there is a 529 planet, and
So
there's a
cute.
funny little alien that will tell you, okay, this is a low risk, this is a high risk, this is medium risk, or,
Mhm.
this is a sure thing. You put your money in a savings account, it's going to be there. And even better, it's not right in your pocket, burning a hole through. You can't lose it. Your brother and sister can't steal your money. The dog can't eat your $5 bill. So we really try to teach kids just by starting we're not telling you what to do, because for every person, risk is different. If you're very young, maybe you
Mhm.
can take bigger risks. If you're old, maybe you can take fewer, or it's just a personality stuff. We don't tell you what, and you really should find someone very personal to do those kinds, in helping you. But you can start understanding what each does and
Mm.
be able to start making decisions for yourself. Like I maybe if you're first jumping in, make sure that you do get that first savings account. And maybe the biggest interest you're going to get this year is with a share certificate or a CD. And maybe the next year, after you feel really good about that, maybe I'm going to jump into a mutual fund. And then after that, maybe I'm going to do something else. But just start. And if you are building interest, you have started. And then you can get comfortable and just keep going from there.
Yeah, when my children were younger, we would actually talk about money around the dinner table.
Beautiful.
And eventually, my oldest son is 12 years older than my youngest son. And so then he would start teaching the younger ones about money. And although they're very young, um, everybody is a saver. Everybody has some investment. So it helps when you sit at the dinner table. It helps when you're not avoided. And it also helps when you're not really, when you're not negative about money.
Yeah.
You know, most people have trauma around finances.
Yeah.
And if your children just see trauma, it's really hard for them to understand that there's the other side of the coin, right?
A
There's,
hundred percent.
you know, you get to go on good vacations. You use the money, like you said, to increase the value of your financial decisions and therefore your financial life.
Absolutely. One thing that we love to play with in our home is compound interest calculators. If you just Google compound interest calculator, you can be brought to a government site, you can be brought anyway, but just start plugging in numbers. If we put away 20 bucks a month in this kind of account and it has this kind of interest, what would happen over time? Well, what if we did 40 bucks instead of 20 bucks and we put it in this kind of account instead that has a slightly higher interest rate? Then what would happen? It's kids, their eyes get so big when they see the power of compound interest. And I always tell my kids, you will retire a millionaire because we will start accounts and put little in, and if you keep it up, if you can put $100 away in this account for the rest of your life for the next 65, you are guaranteed to have this amount of money. But it's going to take discipline, and it's going to take not dipping into it, and it's going to take all of these things, but it's completely up to you. And I think we just make kids excited about the possibility of what their good decisions can do.
So I was listening to I went to another conference and they were saying that let kids make mistakes, but don't shame them about the mistakes that they make. Um, can you talk just a tiny bit about that before we wrap up tonight?
So I mentioned already my sea monkey adventure. My parents did not give me more money. And as I'm cleaning out the bowl of the sea monkeys with them all like kind of plastered to the side, my dad did not say, I told you so. He didn't say anything else. He just said, I'm sorry that didn't work out. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. So not shaming them is different than correcting their mistake
Mhm,
for them.
mhm.
So I would say you got to let them feel those consequences. And they will survive the consequences of these smallest mistakes. Maybe the next really big mistake is something that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I would say really let your kids enjoy the consequence, because it really is a learning tool.
One of the ladies said she was talking about investing, and um, I always tell my kids that it would be better if because they liked fancy tennis shoes and they like this, it would be better to invest in the company, and then they're making money every time. Uh,
Hmm.
they think about that versus being a capitalist and consuming, consuming, consuming. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, the stock market essentially is, instead of buying the shoes, you're buying a tiny bit of the company. And it is it's a powerful thing to even tell kids, like, you can own a piece of this. And so then every one of your friends who's wearing it, they just made you a little richer.
Kids love that. Nicolle, I was absolutely delighted with your presentation. Our members absolutely loved it. You guys in the chat, let's thank Nicolle for her amazing presentation. We are going to be able to share this presentation if you hadn't had an opportunity, you want to review it. And also, if you want a colored copy of the map, it has the QR codes with all the financial terms. That's all you have to do is email me at webinars@patelco.org, and I will be absolutely delighted to send you some colored copy because they're super cute. And Nicolle's kids are actually in the videos. So it's just an amazing way. It's a fun way. It's a creative way to actually introduce your children in a way that will make them productive and healthy and wealthy adults. Because it makes it fun, and if it's fun, I'm telling you, half the battle is there. So Nicolle, we are delighted to host you tonight. You are my favorite webinar person so far, and I just hope that you'll have the opportunity to come back and share some more information with our members.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a privilege, and I'm so excited to talk about my favorite thing in the whole world. And you are absolutely just a perfect platform for this, and Patelco is amazing for putting this on. We just really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you all, and happy Credit Union Youth Month and Youth Financial Literacy Month.
Happy Financial Literacy Month. Thank you everybody for coming. We will catch you on the rebound. Good night. Thanks for watching. Want more financial advice? Make sure you watch the next video here and hit that subscribe button here.